Hello and welcome to the Dungeon Masters Guild House. This is a weekly podcast where I, your host, Matthew Whitby, sit down with people all across the tabletop, RPG, and DMsGuild space as I smack my pop filter. This week, again, I'm privileged to be joined by Lydia Van Hoy. Hello.
Hi.
Hi. How are we doing?
Good.
Nice. No, again, yeah. Thank you so much for joining me and stuff like that. Let's just jump straight into it. Yeah. So for the kind of people listening, I guess the kind of the first question off the bat is kind of like what's your niche on the DMs Guild? What sort of products are you kind of known for?
I'm trying to think of like a good 3-word like description.
Elevator pitch.
But I can't. It's all gay. It's all political. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean,
and it's all stuff that probably most people would look at and be like, "Who wants to play D&D like that?"
No, I must admit, was it I'm going to try and think of 3 words, and the first 3 words coming out, it's all gay. I you know what? I think that's good. That's good branding.
Yeah.
No, because was it? So in particular, it's was it things like the Half-Race Handbook, and then also kind of followed on by the Adventurers. Is it Domestic Handbook?
Domestic Handbook, yeah.
Yeah, so it's kind of like seems to be like a lot of almost like not supplementary rules, but replacement rules.
Yeah, a lot of supplements, but there's also a lot of just straight replacements too.
So I guess kind of like the first question. So if we take I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit, but when did you kind of like start like publishing on the DMs Guild, and more importantly, kind of what did you start with?
The first thing I ever published was the Humble Beginnings Classes for Commoners, and it's just 3 normal. I think there's like commoner, farmer, and merchant.
Nice.
Normal person classes. They're full 1 to 20 classes. They're totally viable. They're just no patrons or.
I'm kind of curious now. So what's like the capstone thing for like a farmer? Is it sort of druidic, or is it just like we just have a really good year?
It's not druidic at all. It's more like a hardiness and life skill.
I don't know. I just kind of, I suppose it's kind of very in keeping with the common theme to be like, level 20, really successful marketing year, fantastic harvest. Like our grain is peak.
Right.
But no, interesting. And then, so how long ago would you say you threw that up then?
That was October 2019.
Fair. And then kind of that I guess the question I always like to try and latch onto that one and is like, what was the like the inspiration? Why were you like, why did you want to publish on the DMs Guild?
Because I'm a single mom, honestly. And I needed a job, and I was like, I can make a job for myself writing D&D content. So why wouldn't I do that?
So no, fantastic, and yeah, I must admit, I'm always kind of beyond impressed by the people who kind of take the sort of like full-time dive into the sort of like RPG creation and stuff like that. Was it particularly like I don't want to say like nerve-wracking, or I don't know.
Oh yeah, it was absolutely terrifying. I didn't intend to go full-time. I mean, I wasn't doing anything else, but I didn't intend to be like, this is going to be my 30, 40 hours a week that I work on this.
Yeah.
And this is going to be my sole income. And then I released the Half-Race Handbook, and it did really well. I think it hit silver at least in the first day, if not Electrum. And after that, I was like, yeah, I can I can do this.
No, it's incredible. And then so I guess there's been, again, if I remember correctly, the Half-Race Handbook kind of preempted a lot of the kind of discussion around I guess like race, at least within the so I'm kind of curious then. So like what was your thought process in kind of being like ahead of the curve almost?
Well, it was just for personal, selfish reasons, honestly, because I wanted to make these characters.
It's so would you say that's kind of like a good part of your like design process then? Is it sort of the things that you kind of want to have at your own table, or things that you want to be playing that you kind of like?
Yeah, absolutely.
No, interesting. Was there a particular like sort of like a half-race combination that was kind of like the driving inspiration?
So in not my last campaign at this point, but my favorite campaign that I've played in, we had Tabaxi, who, through enough joking, the DM agreed, sure, the white dragon can be his girlfriend. And I was going to play a half dragon, half Tabaxi. And it never happened.
Oh, so it was like in like the sort of campaign set like a few years afterwards. This like sort of like this, yeah. No. And then so it was kind of, and then what was there any like sort of, I guess, design challenges to essentially, I guess, like, because with the half-race handbook, it is kind of like, again, splitting some of the races kind of in half and trying to sort of balance that. I'm curious about how you navigate it.
Honestly, if I did it now, after having the experience I have, I probably would have done it a completely different way. But thankfully, there's a lot of like resources out there, like Detect Balance, for balancing races specifically.
Yeah.
That kind of assign everything a point cost and make it a little bit easier to split things up.
So was that something that you kind of use, and were you kind of using these sort of like balancing tools to try and keep them all within like a relative sort of range of one another?
Yeah, this was before I had actually found Detect Balance and started using it.
Yeah.
But I did sort of the same thing, just sort of going and looking at like the relative power level of each thing and giving it its own weight.
Mm-hmm. I guess I'm kind of curious then, because so this kind of came up with was I was speaking with Darren Kenny, and he said that one of his friends kind of put together a spreadsheet for determining the strength of like, or the damage output for subclasses.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember like what was the most like by the numbers or by the weight? What was like the most powerful race?
Probably Asmar.
Yeah.
Asmar are really strong with their transformation.
Yeah, they get some cool stuff.
Followed probably surprisingly by the Grong that they put out.
Oh.
With their poison skin and the ability to poison weapons, it's surprisingly powerful.
Yeah. I like that. I don't know. I love the Grung. I mean, I know like it's I think with the Grung, it's like particular like when you read them in like Tomb of Annihilation, they're pretty like evil. They're pretty like nasty thing, but they're so cute, and it's like the little like. Was it there's that GIF online of like a frog moving, and it's just the idea of like the wet feet slapping on the ground like a duck.
Right.
I just imagine that anytime they move, and then I just can't be mad at them. Sorry, I just felt compelled to share my love for Grung. No, interesting. And then so that was essentially a kind of runaway success with the kind of Half-Race Handbook and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I guess I'm curious then. So how long after your sort of set of common classes did you kind of release the Half-Race Handbook?
The classes came out in October, and the Half-Race Handbook came out in December. So it was just a couple of months between them.
So yeah, still kind of pretty early in sort of like churning through products and stuff like that. Yeah.
Really early. I got really lucky. It took me from, I think right before it came out, I was doing a giveaway trying to get to like 200 followers.
Yeah.
And I just all of a sudden had like 1,200.
Just you blink and miss it.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm kind of curious then. So I'm trying to think of like what. First of all, I'm trying to think of what my question is. But I guess so. What was necessarily the kind of path from obviously with the commoner class to the sort of the Half-Race Handbook, then kind of also into the kind of domestic handbook? There is kind of like a theme of kind of offering I guess the more sort of like, no, I don't want to call it mundane, but I mean like almost like
That's what it is. Yeah.
the sort of like day-to-day sort of life of adventurers and people.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of curious. So where does that like inspiration come from that you kind of want to try and bring that more into like D&D as a whole?
Well, for one, that's just the kind of games that I like to play. Like, I prefer to be able to like retire my character and go do something, go start a business or something. And even like that's just been kind of my general introduction to D&D too, because my entire introduction to D&D I owe to my dad and hearing stories about playing in high school and stuff like that. And all of their stories, it's like, yeah, we were a bunch of evil characters, but I had a wife and kids, and like everybody had these followers that came along with us. And I was like, yeah, I want to play that.
No, I do like Wizard. Yeah, there's like I unquestionably like lawful evil character who manages to sort of turn it all off before he gets home. Like, leaves work at the door, gets like takes off the sort of helm that just billows smoke. Yeah, no, I see what you mean. Yeah, and I must admit, like, I think there's been jokes around it on the internet and stuff like that. It's like it's very rare for like a rogue to be like, yeah, no, I had some loving parents. They're very supportive of my line of work.
Right, and that's why all of the backgrounds I make too, especially what's been like on my Patreon lately, is just family friendly, no depressing backstory. Like, here's your good, happy childhood background.
Which, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's weird that in the world of like the D&D stuff, that's weirdly uncommon. Like it's I suppose it's kind of like leaning into the trope of like every adventurer is deeply troubled in some way. But no, oh, sorry.
I was just gonna say it makes sense to me. Like whenever we were working on the domestic handbook, part of our like kind of philosophy was, people play these games to escape.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you're playing something to escape, you don't want it to just be, fighting and, oh, you failed at this, or, you want something fulfilling, happy.
Yeah, no, I think as well, because I think it kind of opens up that whole new area of kind of role play that so many people are kind of used to sort of the trudging through a X number of dungeons, and to kind of have the moment of like, okay, yeah, you return home and you're meeting your mother, and it's like that's something is again it's such a rare kind of. Yeah, it feels weird that that's a rare experience to kind of have at the table and stuff like that, but it's kind of opens up a new, opportunity of, I guess, like wholesome role play,
Mm-hmm. That's the point.
Yeah. So I guess so in kind of putting together the domestic handbook, then is there anything that you kind of put in there that you're like particularly proud of?
Oh God, all of it. We've got maybe not the proudest, but my favorite.
Yeah.
Are probably the magical RVs that you can bring your family around and upgrade them and everything. And then all of the NPCs. I think we ended up with like 20 something NPCs, 25. And they've all got they've just got full backstories and little side quests and stuff like that. And I love them. And I think that's like, we did such a great job on.
No, I must admit it's those sort of tools of just having like a character that's again easily to kind of drop within kind of any setting. I find that those are the sort of products that are like endlessly useful, because sometimes I just need a person.
Right.
this is essentially like a fully formed person that kind of been kind of dropped in anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious, have you heard like online about anyone having any sort of like interactions with some of the characters that you've created?
I haven't, honestly, and I would love to. I'm surprised I haven't. Because
maybe
like the Half-Race Handbook, I hear about people's characters all the time. It's like, I just want to know who's dating what NPC. Come on.
It's like that. I just want to know that they're happy. I want to.
Right.
No, I suppose, it's the sort of people ready to kind of tell you about their characters is, I feel like everyone has that one character that they play. They just want an excuse to kind of chat about. And I think with the Half-Race Handbook, it's kind of easy to be like, oh no, this is a doozy. No, interesting. And then so kind of like from the Domestic Handbook, and were there any other sort of like standout products that you kind of like would like to chat about?
I'm trying to think. I've done so much at this point that like sometimes I just have to sit and be like, what did I write? I've just done so much. Eyes Unclouded.
Oh, fantastic.
I don't even have to say anything else about it. Just beautiful. I've got some stuff coming that I'm excited about, but as far as stuff that's come out, those are the two big standouts.
So I guess actually so for Eyes Unclouded, if for whatever reason the people listening haven't heard of it, and I'm assuming they have, but again, you never know. Is essentially it's a collection of Studio Ghibli, Ghibli kind of inspired adventures. Which adventure did you contribute to it then?
I did the layout design.
Oh, yeah.
So I didn't actually write anything, but I did make it look pretty.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, no, I not like that's 100%. I mean, that's a core part of every sort of project is kind of getting it through layout. And I imagine, think about it, it's a beautiful, it is a beautiful layout.
Yeah.
I take it you kind of had like did you have fun in sort of like trying to create and kind of keep the sort of the essence of Studio Ghibli?
I did. The only thing that I'm disappointed about is that we weren't able to do some sort of, the beginning for Totoro?
Yes.
It's got all the different stuff dancing across the bottom of the screen.
Not the little sprite. No, that's a different problem, isn't it? The little dust gremlins.
The beginning of Totoro just has, before the movie even starts, it's just got cute little things dancing across the screen, spiders and objects, and cats and whatnot. I think everyone really wanted to figure out how to do some sort of footer that resembled that, and then just nobody could make it work.
Yeah, it's always a shame when particularly when it comes to like layout and you're trying to do all these little details and stuff like that, and then because again the footer is a very small part of the page, and then sometimes when you zoom out, it's just like, oh, this doesn't look like if you make it bigger and then you don't have enough words on the page.
That's my problem with footers. I'm like, oh, this is beautiful, and then I realize just how much it takes up, like 1.5 inches of the bottom of the page, and I'm like.
So I guess is your kind of journey into doing layout? Is it the case of like through your own products you were doing the layout obviously for your own stuff, and then it's like this is kind of fun.
Yeah. Pretty much.
Yeah, and next thing you know, doing good layouts for other people. I think that's kind of similar story for me with like some covers. Is I would go in and sort of create a cover, and then a few people are like, it's pretty cool. Do you want to make me a cover? And it's like, really? I only do them for me, but maybe this is I can start doing them from other people.
That's good to know that you do make covers for other people, because multiple times I've been like, one of those covers would look real nice. I was like, but I don't want to bother.
Well, again, no, I sell most things, so honestly, like I'm not picky, starving artist and all that. So I guess then talking more generally then about when you come to sort of sit down and start a sort of a project. What is your like creative process then? Like where do your ideas start? Where do they come from? Is it
Ooh,
you're right?
That one snuck up on me. Yeah, I'm fine. I'll be honest, I have no idea what creative process means, because I just sit down and do it.
Yeah.
I don't really. I plan stuff out if I'm having to give writing assignments and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm just working on something myself, I just sit down and start typing
Yeah.
and hope it makes something.
So I take it. So are you? So you're not. I take it from the. So it doesn't sound like you're not like a big sort of like planner. You don't sort of go through and you just write kind of top to bottom, or do you kind of jump about all over the place?
It's all over the place. I'll write a little bit of one section or one feature for like class or something, and then go do like something different or work on an entirely different project for a little bit and then come back to it.
No, I must admit that there is something to that I kind of like. I almost had like an epiphany not too long ago, because I am I love skeleton sorry, the document skeleton. I don't know. I like skeletons. is that I go through and I sort of like ritualistically kind of plan and do my headers and stuff like that. And then that kind of sometimes I feel like it kind of forces me into kind of almost go through like chronologically. I go from start to finish. But when I kind of realized is sometimes when I'm hitting those roadblocks is the order in which you write things really doesn't matter. Like no one's gonna be like, oh, it feels like you could literally just kind of jump about, and sometimes it's kind of easier than trying to kind of force your way through a particular section that you just need more time to kind of gestate. Yeah, we'll say gestate. No, interesting, and yeah, fair. I think that it's always a case of like in terms of like why I ask people about their kind of creative process is it's always like there's no right or wrong, and it is always kind of curious to hear about just how people kind of get on and do it. And yeah, no, I kind of it's I have mad respect for like again your I guess your methodology of I'm just gonna do it. I'm gonna sit at something's gonna get done. Like I've got this amount of time, things are getting done. Then I kind of guess leading on from there then is there like a particular part like a part of a project that is your favorite?
Anything mechanical.
Okay.
Whenever it comes to writing like just like the fluff behind something, can't get through that very quickly at all. I can do it, and I do, but I could also sit down and do like subclass in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Where writing like the fluff for that subclass might take me another hour.
I must admit, I think again, I spoke recently. There is a certain level of comfort in subclass design because it's again there's a structure to it. Like like if you're doing a paladin, there's like do you, like if you had to like I guess is there any reason why you think there's a natural like ease for writing mechanics?
I don't know, honestly. I think that's just more how my mind works than working with like the fluffy story side of things.
Yeah.
Because like when I'm playing, obviously, we create, crazy great stories. But when it comes to just sitting down and writing something like that, I'm definitely not like a fiction writer.
Yeah, there's definitely kind of like especially like I like the comfort I like that when it comes to writing mechanics about spells or items is you have the resource of thousands of items to kind of look at and kind of refer to. When it comes to again, like you mentioned, the more fluffy stuff for like adventure writing, you've got all the adventure books, but they vary. Like and I don't want to start the argument about box text or no, or or bullet point list, or it gets more into that sort of more fluff, less mechanics that can be sometimes harder.
Yeah, there's less to reference. I feel.
So I guess in kind of in terms of mechanics writing, then would you say writing subclasses is like top of the list, or like are there some mechanics that you like writing more than subclasses?
Subclasses and things like that, I would say, are probably the easiest. I can sit down and I can churn them out quickly and do dozens. But I think my favorite thing about writing mechanics is oddly having to come up with something that hasn't been done before.
Yeah.
So like you have all of this mechanical history that you can reference, and I do a lot of referencing like 3.5 and 4th edition, because there's just so many rules and things that haven't been done in 5th edition. But just to come up with something totally new but still feel confident that yes, this works and doesn't break the game is probably my favorite.
So is there any sort of particular examples of like a mechanic that kind of comes to mind that was like a particular design challenge?
For the domestic handbook, and then also for supers and sorcery, it has a very similar system.
Mm-hmm.
I've made systems for training like NPCs.
Okay.
Because I personally and a lot of the people I know always have like a huge band of NPCs following the party around.
Yeah.
So you might as well put them to use.
It's was it the adventuring party is like a glorified adoption agency.
Right. But just figuring out how to scale that alongside player level and have them be, you know, more useful than they were before, but not on the same level as the players, was difficult.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of like what they've kind of done with the sort of psychic system.
Mm-hmm. That was the idea behind it, and I was like, this just is not enough for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, what was it? There's, you know, you kind of get penned into like, oh, are they a fighter or a mage? And then they kind of like pivot a little bit more to like, oh, maybe they can heal, maybe they can do some sneaky stuff.
Right.
Yeah, no, so I guess, yeah, no, I'm curious. So was the sort of systems in place that you introduced for like training NPCs, was it kind of similar to like Downtime Rules, or did you go? I'm curious about what particular direction you kind of went with it.
I'm not honestly at this point. I'm not sure what the actual Downtime Rules for 5e are because I've written so many. But it's not really anything you have to do.
Yeah.
So sort of like downtime, or you know, paying someone to make you something. You know, you come back and it's done.
Yeah.
As long as you have these NPCs with you while you go on adventures.
Okay.
Like from level up to level up.
Mm-hmm.
Then that's how they learn.
No, I mean, it kind of makes sense. You kind of learn more by being on the job, so to speak.
Right.
Yeah. You know, I do. I don't know why, but like, there's always been like a soft spot for me in terms of like what Acquisitions Incorporated did. And I don't know, the idea of just having like adventuring interns, like with you. I feel like,
yeah. Acquisitions is, I think, the only streamed or recorded anything like that I've ever actually been able to sit down and watch.
Yeah. It's like I said, it's sort of like, was it Sod's Law that is like, even though it is a hardcover book, the DMsGuild, we just don't get a chance to play with it. And you can be a little bit cheeky about it. You can be like, oh, here's some, you know, adventuring companies or franchises, and then and I think it is on my like my to-do list. Is one thing that I would love to try and integrate is rival adventuring parties. I think it kind of like leads into the idea of like, you know, the idea of like, you know, the heroes having like family back home, to the idea that they're not the only adventurers in the world.
Right.
Like, you know, there's going to have to be other groups out there, and, you know, just having you know, a little bit of occasional banter with this sort of group that is, you know, maybe on like not the sort of competing against the same goal, but again, maybe they are. So again, that's on my to-do list. Whether it ever gets done, who knows?
Yeah, I know that feeling.
So then, so that's again segue aside to almost like to go roundabout then. So if your favorite kind of part of the project then is the mechanical crunch, I guess is the least favorite part definitely the fluff, or is there like another part that kind of stands out?
Yeah, I would think the fluff is the part that I least enjoy. Except for like with the exception of like NPC backstories.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's NPCs is like, again, because you're kind of imagining like a rounded character. Fluff, that is, yeah, it's a case of like it's so nebulous, and even though like there was it, even I noticed in the sort of the fluff writing for like subclasses, there is kind of like a slight formula where they say, oh, here's like three different like characters using these abilities in exciting ways. Yeah, no, it's still kind of like a smidgen different.
Yeah.
No, so I guess then, so kind of looking across, as you kind of like continued sort of developing as a creator, then, is there like a particular lesson that you wish you'd learned just a little bit earlier?
I was thinking about this the other day. I think it would have been hiring editors, number one.
Bingo. That's a buzzword.
Which I didn't do for a while. Big collaborations are not as cool as you think they are. And I think that's it.
Yeah. No, I must admit, yeah. No, I guess it's yeah. Yeah, I'm in that weird spot as well. So, and having like a sort of bunch of people to kind of come in and challenge. Universal hire an editor, that one I can't really argue with. Big collaborations though, I think they're tough ones because sometimes they are nice to get involved in, and again, it's kind of nice sometimes to have a small chunk that you kind of hand off and pass off.
Right.
But I think if I look at like everything I've kind of contributed to and everything I'm involved in, I think I have like 9 projects kind of waiting to be released that are like these sort of big collaborations. And it's I guess, yeah, the timeline of like how long it's, yeah, you forget
getting so many moving pieces to move in sync with each other is really difficult.
Yeah. So I'm curious then, so what has been yours, like obviously with Eyes Unclouded, what has kind of been your role in some of these collaborations?
Well, for Eyes Unclouded, I did the layout design. I did the layout design for the Princess Project as well.
Oh,
with Kat Evans. And we kind of handed that back and forth. And then I think most of the big stuff like that, anthologies and whatnot, has pretty much been layout because I'm not an adventure writer. And those are the ones that I've noticed are the least like, yeah, okay, cool. We did it. We made something really cool.
Yeah.
Now let's go play with something else.
Yeah.
Versus like settings, which are a little bit more labor intensive and exciting.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think especially when it comes to like compendiums and stuff like that, where it's a case of like, again, it is 15 isolated experiences kind of condensed into one, which is nice because eventually, you have the like occasional sort of group brainstorming, and there's sort of that sort of camaraderie of like, hey, we're all in this together. But those kind of projects where it is like, I guess, yeah, everyone kind of like in the pits of designing.
there's something about knowing that you're gonna make 15 cents a copy too. On like an adventure anthology or something that I think sucks a little bit of the fun out of it.
Yeah. It's always that trade-off though, isn't it? Because like, like in just like the nature of, or like, the nature of having like 15 people on a product, that kind of gets more eyes on it, and it gets therefore sells. But then it's like, well, if there were less people, would it sell? Like, I would get a higher percentage, but then maybe they would sell.
But then we'd sell less copies.
Yeah. You can't win either way. There's a balancing thing,
right?
Yeah, no, I think I do agree with you with like collaborations. I think it's what I'm finding is the smaller scale ones are probably more sort of more, it gets more gratifying in a way, because again, sorry.
You can just, I think, have like a better group experience whenever you're working on something with like 3 or 4 versus, there's 10 plus writers and 10 plus artists and everything like that.
The one, I guess the one kind of like thing that I'm sometimes finding is being involved in sort of setting projects, especially like kind of larger scale ones, is I get given my designation of what I'm writing. Say I've got to write X number of locations or whatever it is. I do worry about like stepping on people's toes, and it becomes so much like it becomes like a set, as you can imagine, a setting itself is kind of really hard to stay on top of in terms of like these are the universal rules, these are the the groups, the races, the factions, and
right.
I guess it's the cases where I don't envy, I suppose, the project manager or the editors who kind of have to go through and kind of...
Yeah, I imagine having to edit 30 different voices to all sound like the same writer voice is exhausting.
Yeah. And I know for a fact I do write very much like I talk, which is painfully British. It's a tough one. But I think especially, I suppose, newer creators and stuff like that, collaborations are always a kind of good kind of foot in the door.
Absolutely. I did the Princess project very early, and like I'm, even with it being an adventure anthology, I'm really glad I did, because you make so many valuable connections that way too.
Yeah, it's kind of like the idea of like you see like a huge collaboration, and then within the next like 2 to 3 months afterwards, or even 2 to 3 months after the project finishes, but it's not released yet because again the timeline of the things are huge. You see sort of like mini baby projects that kind of stem from like the creators kind of like pairing off or I think they're great, but yeah, they're unyieldy, I guess is the kind of nice way about it. I haven't. It's been a while since I've actually. No, I was about to say it's been a while since I've led a collaboration, but I'm leading one right now. It's just in editing, so I feel like once it enters the editing phase, I'm somehow the project manager. That's all Bob's problem now. No, interesting. Then I guess I'm kind of curious then about. I guess if you don't mind kind of chatting about like what's some of the stuff that you're kind of like working on right now?
Right now I've got maybe 2 Kickstarters that are gonna launch in the next 2 or 3 months. One of which is my own. A while back, sometime last year, I made a card game. I had my own little copy printed and everything. And I was going to do a Kickstarter, and I got, I don't know why, just demoralized. And I was like, nah, I'll just keep it for myself. And then like last week, I was like, no, I'm not. So I've also decided that that's going to have a setting, but more of like the Volo Guide to Waterdeep.
Okay.
The little 40-page,
yeah,
just like on a single city, versus like something huge. Lovers in Arms will be coming out on Valentine's Day, which I have to say out loud so that I force myself to get it done in time.
Yeah.
And it will be nearly 50 more NPCs in the same style as the Domestic Handbook.
Oh, fantastic.
So they're like full 2 to 4 page write-ups for each NPC. I'm currently working on a classless D20 system and a Wizard of Oz setting for it. The next, I don't know how. Yeah, the name's already been said on Twitter. Okay. The next Daylight Publications setting, Comets and Cockpits.
Yep.
I'm working on.
I think I've always also said that I'm working on that one. If not, this is our announcement together.
Yeah. There's one big secret project that's going to be really cool. I don't think I can talk about it.
Yeah, no. Again, if in any doubt, don't. I think it's best.
Right. And I know that's not all, but that's all that's coming to mind.
No, I'm kind of fascinated to chat about what's this card game. Do you mind talking about it a little bit more?
Give me just 1 second.
No, of course.
Because I have it here at my desk somewhere, and I can pull it out and actually kind of show it off.
No, I mean, yeah, no, it's and I guess the kind of the follow-up question would be like, do you have like a sort of set time that you're going to sort of throw it up on Kickstarter? Is it like within the next months or?
Within Q1.
Okay.
It'll either be probably late February or early March.
Yeah.
I know it's here because I just cleaned.
No, I must admit, I know that feeling as well. Like, especially when I've been sort of like, I don't know, knee deep in writing. That when I come to find something, it's under a pile of books. I'm scouring the entire thing, and it's gone, whatever it was.
Thankfully, my dad is the one who buys all the D&D books, and he keeps his shelf nice and organized.
Oh,
so
nice.
I always know where everything's at. Okay. So the card game is finished, play tested. Cards are not finalized. I've got to change the design of a couple, but it is a game about growing wheat.
Okay, but
entirely. Yeah. That's the whole thing.
Was it level 20 farmer returns?
Right. You just get little cards, and they'll level up from 1 to 5 stars or 1 to 10 stars, however long you want to play. And it's sort of, I would say, Exploding Kittens-esque, where you just like draw a card from the middle pile until everybody loses or somebody wins.
Yeah.
And your goal is to just get it to the 5-star or 10-star before anyone else does.
No, fair.
And without losing all of your plants.
So I'm curious. So where did was it the case of the idea of the game came first, or was it the case of like you came up with the systems and then you were trying to think of like a sort of theme to add to it?
So first what happened, I was like, man, it would be really cool to make a board game. And then I learned how expensive it is to produce a board game.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, it would be really cool to write a card game. What do I know enough about that I can write a card game? And I do most of my work in my bedroom, and I even left the room. I went and sat in the kitchen by myself for like 3 hours after my daughter went to sleep and beat my head against the table until I finally had a card game that worked.
No, I must admit, I like, was it the Exploding Kittens is a sort of fantastic sort of like quick paced sort of tabletop game. No, in fact, again, I kind of like the sort of going out of the way and sort of design. So wait, I'm sorry, my brain is just clocked. So from start to finish, designing the game took about 3 hours, like at least a first iteration.
Yeah, probably from sitting down and saying, I want to make a card game, to finished card game written out on like index cards was about 3 hours.
Wow. Fair. And yeah, so how did you find the sort of like playtesting process? Because again, I must admit, was it something that we kind of come back to occasionally on this podcast, because I'm chatting about the pros and cons of I guess playtesting D&D content, but with a more traditional sort of card game, again, there's not the sort of like, you don't have to worry about different,
it's so much easier.
Different party compositions or anything like that. You just, did you have fun? Are we having fun?
Right. Do you enjoy it? Does it make sense? And thankfully, like, my family and everyone is super willing to sit down and play test a card game and stuff for me.
It's fantastic. Yeah, I must admit, I do think that there is a good amount of sort of skill crossover. I mean, like going out of your way to sort of design a game for a different system or designing something else from scratch. You're still kind of flexing like design muscles. And you can sort of, again, you begin to sort of appreciate some of the I I guess, yeah, the sort of card games as a medium, they have, they afford certain things. You get to sort of have these sort of interactive stacks of things that you can't necessarily one-to-one translate with more traditional sort of like tabletop RPGs.
Right.
Yeah. So and then it was more the case of once you finish sort of creating this game, you're like, I'm going to sit on it for a while.
I sat on it. I've played it against myself. I've played it against other people. And I think it was more the effort of doing a Kickstarter was kind of daunting. So I was just like, not for this.
Yeah.
But then I thought about it, and it's going to happen.
No, I must admit, I think there is definitely a I don't know what to call it, like a Kickstarter exodus. It seems. I don't know if that's the best thing to call it, but it seems like, again, as people on the sort of DMs Guild are sort of maybe graduating. I don't know if that's like
I've noticed that too.
But I think it is a case of like, the DMs Guild is great for D&D content, and as you kind of develop and sort of realize that, hey, I kind of want to create things, understandably outside. Again, I don't want to be
other stuff.
Yeah. No, honestly, that's really exciting. I wish in come Feb or start of March, I wish you the best of luck with the Kickstarter project. It's kind of it's exciting kind of hear about these projects kind of like kind of pop out of nowhere.
Right.
No, fantastic. And then I guess are there any I guess to bring it back to the DMs Guild like a smidgen then? Would you say you have any sort of particular dream projects?
I do, and it's really embarrassing. And it'll never happen because I've already tried to get the licensing to do it.
Oh no.
And just got ghosted. Because that's what happens when video game companies end up owning licenses to third-party D&D content.
No.
My dream project is to completely redo, going in, removing the problematic stuff, overhaul where's the name? Book of Erotic Fantasy.
Oh, fair.
Yes, that's what it is. And so that's what I've sort of done in pieces.
Mm-hmm.
With like the Half-Race Handbook and the Domestic Handbook.
Yeah.
Bringing bits and pieces that I can. I went as far, I got like the author's blessing. One of the women who wrote it, she was like, yeah, that would be awesome. I'd love to see that.
Mm-hmm.
And then the trail kind of just went cold on the licensing for it.
Yeah. No, yeah. I must admit, and I think was it as well. I think was it. I know that Ashley May has done. I think it's not a similar project.
Mm-hmm. I believe Ashley has a project on Drive-Thru that focuses on like sex work in D&D.
Yes.
And like brothels and stuff like that. Which I just think is super, super awesome. So, I love it.
I guess I'm like, I guess what would necessarily be your take? Is it literally just for the most part trying your best to go through and remove the sort of problematic content of the original?
Yeah, there's a lot of issues with like non-consent, even though people don't give it the credit it deserves. It does have sections on consent and stuff like that. But it's from the era of, D&D is gritty. This stuff happens in real life. Why wouldn't it happen in D&D?
Yeah.
So removing a lot of that, updating it, modernizing it, and just giving it a facelift.
Yeah. No, was it? Yeah, it sounds like it's definitely something that would kind of benefit from almost like the domestic lens for the sort of tables that want to bring this sort of stuff in.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah, no, interesting. And then I must admit, I must admit, I am always kind of fascinated by the sort of the creators who kind of take it upon themselves to kind of look at least with like, was it the sort of D&D existing lore, and they just sort of go, I'm gonna fix this. And I just sort of have huge respect to kind of like, they're sort of like, this is something that, this is the burden I want to bear.
Right.
No, interesting. And I guess I wonder if this is a bit of a weird question then. Hypothetically speaking, if you were to go back, or if you were to, let's say, create like a like Half-Race Handbook 2, or a Adventurers Domestic Handbook 2, is there anything in particular that you would like want to add?
I can't really think of anything that I would add to either of them. I'm really happy with both of those projects and where they ended up.
Yeah.
And I can't think of anything, especially with the Adventurers Domestic Handbook, which was originally probably supposed to be like half the size. Definitely could not think of anything to add to that one.
I mean, what is it? That is the sort of the natural progression of a project. Is you start it, it's like, oh, this should be like 20 pages. Next thing it's like 60.
Right.
No, yeah, 100%. And I think there is like you kind of touched on it earlier, talking about like, was it like if you were to come to do the Half-Race Handbook now, there are things you would probably go about slightly differently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would take a completely different approach. It would probably end up being mostly the same.
Yeah. But I think a good amount of that is obviously like, as you, again, the more you make, and the further along you go in sort of creating stuff, it does get slightly harder to look back at your earlier stuff. And even again, you can kind of be, happy and like I said, I still like, I look through all my products with like, like a rose tinted glasses. But then when I actually open the pages and go through flip by flip, I'm like, oh no, that box text is too large.
Yeah. I have enough projects, so I can't really let myself look at old projects too much, because I'll want to like redo them and like redo the layout or like redo a section, and I can't let myself go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, I think it's always the idea of like that it would feel good for me, but then it's like, where do you stop? Like three years down the line, you'll be looking at that stuff going, I just change the layout again. I've
Yeah.
Although I don't know, there may be like a business model of like yearly revamps.
I know. I think Oliver's that he's redone have done fairly well after like getting a little bit of a facelift. So
yeah, I know that was it.
I can't imagine it would hurt anything, but
Oliver also does the sort of stuff where with each sort of like medal milestone, with some of his products, kind of releases more content.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you did it with I think it's the Gods of Faerun, which I think is a fascinating kind of business model. Or I don't even know if I call it a business model. I think the not the problem that I have is the fact that like when I write something, I think I would just feel compelled to kind of put it in, like from the get-go. Or if I wasn't going to write it, I would just kind of save it for like another project. But I suppose it's kind of the case of like the rate in which Oliver writes. I think it's a case of like, oh, it's gone gold. There we go. There's the new things kind of written. We're back. We're good. Sorry, I think there was a slight delay there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, cool. Well then, yeah, I guess kind of looking. So again, using Oliver as a segue, talking about the community as a whole. Then, are there who I guess I should stop saying are there, because that's just yes. But who are some of the people in the DMs Guild community that kind of particularly inspires you?
So whenever I first made my account, I think the first people that I sort of found and was like, yeah, this is cool. They're doing the same, maybe not the same kind of stuff I want to do, but they're doing the stuff like I'm interested in. Mm-hmm. Was Kat and Laura Evans both, Ashton Duncan, and Oliver. were the first ones that I saw, and I was like, wow.
Yeah, no, was it Cat and Law Evans? They're a dynamic duo.
Oh, absolutely.
No, 100%, yeah, and yeah, I suppose yeah, you can kind of sort of see it as well with the princess drawing a blank, the princess
Princess Project.
princess. I feel bad for
I'm pretty sure.
I forget the word project. But yeah, so yeah, you can kind of see, and yeah, it's kind of I must admit, I do like how you can kind of see that when kind of people join the kind of initial projects that they kind of join, it kind of shapes who your kind of like DMsGuild family is, or
right,
your
yeah.
immediate, yeah. No, yeah, they're fantastic, yeah, and yeah, again, everyone's like. It's that kind of case of like when people talk about people that inspire you. It's not like I'm really like, no, that's wrong. But no, yeah, fantastic. Then and Fennis, you've kind of already kind of gone over like some of the kind of amazing stuff that you've kind of got working on. Is there anything that you know that's coming out in the sort of more kind of immediate that you kind of want to take a moment to kind of shout
out? Sometime probably at the end of this month, I'll have a 1 to 20 Lich class coming out.
Ooh.
Then Valentine's Day, we'll have Lovers in Arms. And sort of end of February, there should be at least one Kickstarter coming out.
Valentine's Day is in March?
February.
Ooh, okay, fair. My partner is not going to be happy hearing that.
For a second, I thought I had said it was in March, which I wouldn't put past.
No, it makes sense because, like, again, I don't know why, because I feel like you're just like, we have the Lich class coming out, then we have the Valentine's Day, and then we have something coming. So it makes sense that you wouldn't say the dates in an order of which. So it's just me not understanding when holidays are. No, it's exciting. And yeah, fair. I need. What's the inspiration behind this sort of Lich class?
Someone asked me to make it.
Okay.
And I made it, and I liked it enough.
Yeah. Sometimes that's all you need.
Honestly, if I ever put out a class, it's probably because someone asked me to make a class for them, and I was like, I'm happy with it.
No, is there any sort of was there any level features or anything that you kind of want to like give like this is kind of cool?
Well, you can become a demi-lich.
Always good.
So if you would like to become a floating jeweled skull, that is a possibility. It's not just boring old standard liches. It's 4 subclasses.
Wow. Okay. Fair.
4 variants.
Yeah. No, I must be. Yeah, I think that being a demi-lich is definitely up there. Just because, like, it's you don't get more. What is it? More fashionable than that with sort of diamonds in your eyes. Well, looking at the time, Lydia, we have managed to kind of natter away an hour. Thank you so much for taking the time to sit down and have this chat. No, it's been kind of delightful.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, I guess the kind of important part then is for all these amazing products and potential Kickstarters and stuff coming out. For the people listening, what is the best way for them to kind of hear about it and stay up to date with your work?
The only thing I update regularly is Twitter. Yeah. So, Twitter is honestly probably the best way. Patreon, I don't really do any announcements. Just kind of release things. So.
And yeah, was it? I'll do obviously your Twitter handle will be on page, and then obviously I can throw a link to your Patreon as well. Stuff in the description.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so people can find it. And you kind of mentioned before the kind of was it Patreon content that you throw out was more like it was a did I hear it? Was it a subclass?
I've done a couple subclasses. I've done a couple backgrounds, magic items. It's just little stuff, not anything huge, just small stuff that I can stay on top of every month.
Yeah, I think it's more the case of like, Patreon is more of like, I like the stuff that you're doing. I would like to ensure that you keep doing stuff.
Right. That's pretty much what it's there for, is just another method of support, and you get a couple of cool things.
Nice. Well, yeah, no, thank you so much. And then, yeah, I guess I've been Matthew Whitby. You can find me at Whitby Writes. I'm fairly sure by next episode I'm going to be able to talk about something that I'm releasing, but I may just be cursing myself in saying that. We'll find out. If I release something next week, I'll be right. If not, I'll call myself a liar. Yeah, you can find me at Whitby Writes to hear about all that. So I guess my final question then, Lydia, is how do we end a podcast?
How do we end a podcast?
I wish I knew. I've been trapped here for so long.
That's like one I've ever done.
I think we'll just go with I've got an idea. This is how you end a podcast. This is a message to future Matthew, to include this message and to release something, please.